What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Pack a Day podcast. I'm your host, Andy Herman. You can follow me on Twitter at Andy Herman NFL. Appreciate you joining me today. We are going to be breaking down the tape of Jalen Pitre, defensive back out of the University of Oregon. Really excited to break him down. Before we get there, I wanted to quickly touch base on all the Deebo Samuel buzz and rumors and news and everything like that. For those of you who've been living under a rock, Deebo Samuel has reportedly asked for a trade out of San Francisco. And of course, everyone looks at Green Bay with their multiple first-round picks and multiple second-round picks and just a slight need at wide receiver and says, hey, that sounds great. Let's trade for Deebo Samuel. And okay, probably not, right? But I can understand the want and desire to have a Deebo Samuel on the team. And so, yeah, I get the buzz on Twitter from all of Packers Twitter thinking all right, let's go get Deebo Samuel. However, you have to remember, first of all, from all sounds of it, San Francisco has no real interest in trading him at this point. Now, very much also sounds like Deebo Samuel has no interest in playing in San Francisco ever again. So something has to give there. But let's even go down the path that San Francisco does in fact decide to trade him prior to next week's draft, which again, always could happen. So let's say it goes in that direction and they ultimately end up trading Deebo Samuel. You have to think that they do not have much interest in trading him to the Green Bay Packers, or at minimum, Green Bay would have to pay quite the premium in order to get his services. And you also have to think that other teams, probably in the AFC, where San Francisco would probably love to trade him, like the New York Jets, for example, would be very interested in his service, giving up some very premium picks that not even Green Bay has in this draft. So it really is difficult from a, San Francisco's desire standpoint to think that they would trade him to Green Bay. I guarantee you they probably aren't out. They're not going to outbid everyone. That's what I would say right now. There's no way that Brian Gutekunst and the way that this franchise values draft picks and cheap young talent and all of those things, there's no way that they are going to outbid 30 other NFL teams for his services, especially again, knowing that they're probably going to have to pay a premium. Let's even say that the Jets and the Packers offer the same exact compensation. You know that they're going to go with the Jets offer in that situation. So that's another layer to this. And then of course, the other layer is that Green Bay is in a bit of a financial pinch. Now, could they make Deebo Samuel work and sign him to an extension? They very much could. They'd have to work out a couple different things, but that is within the realm of possibility. But when you just start adding up everything all together, the fact that the 49ers may not trade him at all, the fact that if they do, they probably want to send him to the AFC or at minimum, not to the Packers. And then you look at Green Bay's financials and how much they value draft picks and all of it, and you start coming to the conclusion very quickly that it would be incredibly surprising, although not impossible, if Deebo Samuel was a Green Bay Packer. Now, that's not to rain on anyone's parade. If that's your cup of tea and you want to fantasize about Deebo Samuel and green and gold this upcoming season, be my guest, by all means. I get the allure of that, but just don't be too disappointed if it doesn't actually come to fruition and Green Bay goes into the draft with 2 firsts, 2 seconds, a third, and no Deebo Samuel. So I will leave it at that, but enjoy whatever fantasy thoughts you want to have about him in Green Bay, because again, I get it would be very fun. And there's others that I saw of there's no interest in Deebo Samuel. They already have Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon. They don't need another running back. Well, his use at running back was very niche and it was very well done. And there's a role for him in that capacity as well. He's a very good wide receiver. And if you look at his snaps, he primarily plays still as an outside wide receiver. He gets great separation. His run after the catch is phenomenal. So yes, he would fit great in Green Bay. He'd be a tremendous fit within Matt LaFleur's offense. There's no question about it. So yes, again, I understand the desire. Again, just don't expect that to be the case. All right, fast forward. Let's move ahead to players that actually may end up being Green Bay Packers. And today we're going to be going over Jalen Pitre. Again, University of Oregon safety / corner / defensive back. He is a redshirt senior, 5'11", 198. He is going to turn 23 in June. So he's a little bit, overaged from a draft standpoint. And again, overaged for what Green Bay likes to do. But if I had to guess, if Green Bay goes with Jalen Pitre, that's probably a second round pick. Maybe they move down from their pick 28. Maybe they move up, or maybe he falls to them in one of their second round picks. I think that's all within the realm of possibility. But I think it would probably be a second round pick, which usually they're a bit more easygoing with the age and some of those sort of things and willing to flex more than they are in the first round. Overall, athleticism is very good. However, he is a bit undersized. We're going to have a lot of parallels between him and Dax Hill from who we, talked about yesterday. If you haven't had a chance to check out that episode yet, make sure to do so. Again, the parallels to these two players are very, they're very similar, and it's very incredible, especially if you watch them back to back, to see some of the things they do differently and some of the things they do the same. Both star corners in that nickel, or I should say slot position, both project as a slot safety, but we'll get into all of that and more in just a moment. But a little bit undersized, 5'11", again, 198. He put up 16 reps in the bench, which is good, 56th percentile, 35 in the vert, which is 64th percentile, and then he had a 55th percentile broad jump, but a 4.46 40-yard dash, which is in the 94th percentile, a short shuttle of 4.18, which was in the 78th percentile, and a 3-cone of 6.74, which was in the 94th percentile. So still what Math Bomb or Kent Lee Platty puts him at an 8.45 as RAS. So as a safety, 84th percentile athlete at that position, still meeting the majority of Green Bay's metrics. And again, we know from looking at Jair Alexander, Darnell Savage, that they're willing to come down on those height and weight thresholds a little bit for the right player. And again, Jalen Pitre could be exactly that. Actually has 5 years of statistics from the University of Oregon, or from his time in college. 75 tackles this past season, 3.5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, 3 fumble recoveries, 2 interceptions, 7 pass defenses. You can see him start stacking that box score a little bit and really becoming a playmaker this last season. In 2020, he had 60 tackles, 2.5 sacks, 2 interceptions, 2 touchdowns, and 2 passes defense. So again, he has that playmaking mentality, the ability to stuff the stat sheet a little bit. And again, that's what you want to see, that level of production out of a playmaker in your defensive backfield. He checks that box very much so. On the downside, statistically, he did have a 15.3% missed tackle percentage per Pro Football Focus. That is very high, whether you're playing corner or safety, and that is going to have to be something that he improves on at the NFL level. Again, as I watch him play, I don't get the feeling that he's a poor tackler, but again, the end results matter, right? So again, he's not going to be the most physical player in the world. He's a bit undersized. That play strength is always going to be a question when you're 5'10", less than 200 pounds, which again, he barely is, but you get my point here. So again, he's going to have to work on his tackle percentage and making sure that he's wrapping up and using really strong technique, because again, you do not want a 15.3% missed tackle percentage as an NFL defensive back, especially if he does end up at safety and he's the last line of defense. That is a huge no-no and something that, again, he's going to have to correct. As far as when he's targeted in coverage, quarterbacks were able to complete 68 of 104 attempts for a 65.4% completion percentage, 567 yards, 0 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, 7 pass breakups, and a 63.3 QB rating. He had more touchdowns in coverage than his opponents did. He scored twice. His opponents had none. So that just, again, goes to show you he is very stingy in coverage. And he, again, has that playmaking ability and the ability to take it to the house when he does get his hands on the ball. Now, as far as positionally, he's very interesting. He projects as a slot corner / safety. However, he has played primarily slot corner in his career. In fact, he only has 13 total snaps at safety in his entire career, redshirt senior. So this is not a short period of time, only 13 snaps as a true deep safety, I should say. He lined up some at safety in the box, even at some, sort of box like linebacker and some other things, but only 13 true snaps as a deep safety at the University of Oregon per Pro Football Focus. So that is something that if a team views him as a safety, they are making a projection in that regards, because they've really only seen him as a corner in college football. All right, let's go to his positives right away, because there is a lot to like about Pitre. The first thing I will say is, yes, he is 5'11", he's 198 pounds, he's a bit undersized. He plays much bigger than his size. In fact, even though Dax Hill, who's also an undersized player, is a little bit taller than him, I would say that Pitre actually plays bigger than Dax Hill, or even most players in that slot type of position. You have to have that toughness and that, physicality and just the mentality to play in that position, especially if you're 5'11", and he has that. I have zero concerns about his overall mentality or being undersized in that position, because he plays much stronger. In fact, there were times that he actually lined up as a edge rusher in Oregon's defense, like as a 3-4 outside linebacker. And he was able to get to the quarterback at times. He was able to set the edge against offensive linemen. He was able to knife into the backfield. He just has that sort of mentality and playmaking ability. It just sort of, again, very similar to Dax Hill. Hey, I'm going to get the job done. I don't care if you put me at outside linebacker. I don't care if you put me in the slot. I don't care if you put me at safety. Put me wherever the heck you want, and I'm going to go out and get the job done. That is his mentality. So again, imagine lining up a 5'11", 198-pound player as a 3-4 outside linebacker. Oregon did it, and he was successful in those situations. So again, that's the type of player he is. He plays much bigger than his size. Very similar to Dax Hill as well. Great football intelligence, great instincts. He is a team captain and a team leader. His competitiveness and his character are off the charts by anyone from the University of Oregon that you want to listen to, and by multiple different scouting reports and reports that are out there. His coaches praised his film study. This is the type of guy that you want on your defense and in your locker room and in your defensive backfield. Again, good athleticism, plays bigger than he is. He's got the tape study habits. He works hard. His hustle and motor and rally to the football are off the charts. Like, these are all the sort of things. Like, we talk about intangibles. Well, what does intangibles mean? It's all of those sort of things. Again, it's leadership, it's the mentality, it's toughness, it's physicality, it's winning, it's getting the job done. And again, Jalen Pitre has all of those things in spades. And again, something that he can really focus on and hone in on as he works on his craft to become a better corner or safety or wherever he ends up lining at the NFL level. You know he's going to have a better chance of reaching his ceiling because he has that intangible quality and checks all of those boxes. All right, the other thing is he has that versatility, right? Lined up some in the box, lined up some at corner, again, had a handful of snaps back at safety, but he projects as a safety who can also play as a slot corner, or he might just be a slot corner who could also play safety. You could look at him that way as well. But also has, again, that flexibility to move around a little bit. And again, this is exactly what defensive coordinators are looking at. It's not exactly like positionless football, but you want players who can do more for you, right? And I do see Pitre in that realm, or, with the capability of, again, playing as a slot defender and being able to win in that scenario. And then you need him to go back and play some safety. Think he can win there. I don't think he can make his living as a 3-4 edge rusher in the NFL. That's not going to work. But again, the more you can do, the more the better off your team is going to be. Remember, you only get, 47 guys active on game days. So you need to make the most of those players. And again, the more that Jalen Pitre can do for you, the better. And I think he can help out in a lot of different roles, even on special teams, which we'll get to more on just a moment as well. Run defense is fantastic. He sets the edge very well as a corner. Again, that star position, you have to have coverage ability. You have to have the ability to play man and zone. You have to have the ability to be a strong run defender. And again, Pitre hits all of those things and has the ability to win and be a very good fit for exactly what Green Bay and Joe Barry wants in that position. You look at what Chandon Sullivan was able to do. I know Chandon Sullivan took some flack at times, but he was a good zone defender. He had some flexibility. Again, you would see him from time to time go back and be able to play some safety if they wanted to rotate somebody down. Not a great blitzer, I wouldn't say, for Chandon Sullivan, but again, he played the run pretty darn well for that position. I think Pitre takes that to a whole different level. I think he's going to be a much better defender against the run. I think he's going to be much better in zone coverage. I think he has more versatility, and he's going to be a much better blitzer, which gets to my next 2 points, which is he is a really good run defender, but also a great blitzer, both as a run blitzer and as a pass blitzer. He times everything up really, really well. So he times the snap, not to the point where if the quarterback's changing up his cadence where he's going to jump off sides or anything like that, but he just has a knack and an ability to know exactly when to blitz without tipping his hand too early, to make sure that the quarterback's not going to be able to audible or change out of the play, etc. The timing is really well done. And again, that's going to help him as both a run defender and a pressure player coming off the edge as a pass blitzer as well. So both of those things are, again, things that Pitre does very, very well. As far as being a backside defender, so you're thinking of him on the slot over here, right? And, maybe you've got your, nickel defense or base defense, whatever you're looking at, and they run left side and he's on the right? One of the things that he does an incredible job of is closing the back door on the backside. So what that means is you're thinking stretch play to the left and the running back's going left and he wants to hit that cutback lane because everything's shut down to the left side. Pitre is one of the best that I've seen of just shutting that back door and making sure that there is no cutback lane for that running back, and not just shutting that down, but going and making the play. His athleticism really shows off in those situations. His hustle shows off in those situations. He will fly across the field and he will go make a play if he needs to. And there is not going to be a cutback lane because he is constantly hustling and rallying to the football, shutting the back door and making sure that those running backs do not have a cutback alley. And when you've got, Preston Smith or Rashawn Gary and Kenny Clark and Dean Lowry and Jerron Reed and Devondre Campbell and all ththose guys doing their job on the strong side, who's ever over there, you don't want to have a weak backside that they can just cut back and, have the opportunity to pick up 5, 10, 15, or, who knows how many yards. You want everyone to be able to do their job, and Pitre is going to do his job, shut the back door and make sure that that alley is not there for the running back to cut back into. Also does an incredible job of knifing through offensive linemen. Like when you think of a running back, right? You're thinking of a running back who's able to make himself small through the offensive line and defensive line to get to the second level, right? We talk about running backs getting small through the hole all the time. Well, this is reversed. Jalen Pitre has the ability to get small as he's either, again, as a blitzer, as a run defender, whatever it is he's trying to accomplish. He will shoot through gaps and his agility shows off, his ability to make a move, and sort of the offensive linemen don't have time to adjust to it. He gets small through the offensive line and knives into the backfield and will make plays in the backfield as well, which again helps him as a run defender. And then we talked about the fact that he's going to be a little bit of a projection at safety because he just hasn't played there. Well, as a corner, and even when he was lined up in the box as a box safety or as an edge defender, he's constantly taking really good angles to the football. So again, one of the things that you want to see from a deep safety is constantly taking good angles. If you have a player who takes poor angles as a safety, they will just never work. So when you have a guy that only has 16 snaps as a deep safety, you're going to want to have, or 13 snaps, you're going to want to see that they know how to take good angles, because again, if they can't play the position. So the fact that he's taking good angles at all of his other positions makes me believe that even though it's a bit of a projection, that he's going to be able to do that well if and when he does end up as a deep safety in the NFL. Again, he fits the star position in Joe Barry's scheme very, very well. And he also has 451 career special team snaps and was on every coverage unit as a senior per Dane Brugler in his draft guide. So again, what you're looking at is a player who can probably come in and be your base star defender from day one, has some safety versatility, and is going to be one of your core special teams players. That sounds like a great way to spend a draft pick that can help you win right now, both on defense and on special teams. Now, as far as negatives go, as we mentioned, very limited snaps at safety, right? He just hasn't played there a ton. So if you think that that's where he's going to play, you're going to want to make sure that you feel very comfortable with him. You probably want to work him out ahead of time and just feel really, really good about what he can do. Again, everything he shows on the field makes me believe that he can be a good safety. Does have to improve that tackling a little bit, but outside of that, I think he can play there. But maybe you just feel he's going to be your star corner, your slot corner anyway. So maybe you're not even concerned about that. But again, if you're projecting him as a safety, it is a projection. And again, I want to note that very much here. Also, where we talked about Dax Hill being really great in coverage and having the ability to be, really a man-to-man corner, whether you're against receivers, tight ends, running backs, etc. Pitre's a little bit different. He is going to be somebody who is very good in zone coverage, but he doesn't have the man skills that Dax Hill does. Now, he's not terrible or atrocious in man coverage. He can hold up a little bit, but if you're going to run a lot of man coverage in your defense, you're probably going to want to maybe go with a Dax Hill or somebody who can cover a bit better in man-to-man than what Pitre has shown. I think he's much more of a zone defender, and again, I think he's much more of a run defender, blitzer, etc. Now, in Joe Barry's defense, a lot of zone defense, some blitzing, a lot of run defending. He can hit all of those things. Again, I think he can fit very well within this defense, but if all of a sudden they want to start going more man-to-man, which again, you could understand because you've got Jair and Stokes and Rasul Douglas, like you've got good man defenders. Like you could all of a sudden say like, hey, we're going to run more man this year. If that's the case, then maybe Pitre isn't your guy. But if you're continuing to work a lot of zone concepts, especially in early downs, as he's your star, again, in base defense or nickel base or early down nickel, I should say, then in that situation, I think he can fit very, very well. So just know that his man coverage skills are nowhere near what Dax Hill's are, and it's something that may limit him a bit as a pure cover corner in the NFL. And again, he's going to have to be more of a zone guy. But again, you're getting blitzing, you're getting run defending, you're getting flexibility, you're getting a lot of positives there as well. Missed tackles we talked about. He's a little bit of a smaller defender. So again, he's not going to be the most physical guy. And just like we talked about with Dax Hill, how many smallish guys do you want to fit on this defense? You've already got Jair. You've already got Savage. Are you going to add another player like Dax Hill or Pitre and put them in that position? Now you've got 3 guys under 6 feet in that secondary. Eric Stokes is more of a finesse type player. The more finesse players you have, you just have to know, you're going to hope for a lot of passing in that situation, because if you get matched up with the 49ers who are power running on you all day, all of a sudden you've got a lot of undersized guys going up against guys like George Kittle and Kyle Juszczyk and Deebo Samuel and a lot of physical players, and that may not go very well for you. So you just have to be aware of how many small guys you're stacking within one individual defense. And then lastly, he did have some shoulder issues in college as well back in 2019. So hasn't been an issue since. And again, he's been pretty durable since then, but he did have those shoulder injuries back in 2019. So I do think he can play star corner right away on base downs. I think you could play him back at free safety on obvious passing situations with Amos in the box, very similar to Dax Hill. And then again, I think he can be a core special teams player from day one. So I do think there is a fit here. Again, you have to ask, are there too many small guys on this defense already? And again, would you rather go a Lewis Seen, who can be a little bit more of a physical defender in this defense, knowing that you've already got some finesse guys in your secondary? But love him as a base star player, love him on special teams. And again, I think he has great development potential as a true free safety or strong safety as well, as he moves forward. So a lot to like. Definitely a fit within the defense. Just a couple questions that Green Bay would have to answer to know if they felt very comfortable with him moving forward, but really, really liked Pitre's tape. He's a really fun player and would be ultimately, I think, a really nice fit in Green Bay. That's going to do it for me today. Thank you so much for joining me. Always appreciate you. I'll be right back here tomorrow with an all new episode. But until next time, and as always, go Pack Go.